there is also that. It's cute. I like this shirt.
No, so how you doing, man?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah,
a little bit exhausted.
Okay? So this is a thing I wanted to make a part of the show that's based off of you.
Okay.
So what you been playing?
So I've been playing a ton of Heroes of the Storm, which has been fun. I got back into MOBAs due to a buddy of mine picking up that game again, being like, "Hey, do you want to play some Heroes of the Storm?" I'm like, why the hell not? And I will say this about Blizzard. They make some very scummy business practices. Loot crates are kind of terrible and has kind of ruined certain elements of non-free-to-play portions of the industry, which I'm super bitter about. So, they can go to hell for that.
It is the modern gamification of DLC.
Yeah, and that's really scary when you think about it out loud.
It also just goes to show that you can gamify anything.
Oh, yeah, dude. I literally gamified things for my students, and they immediately buy into it. It's hilarious to be like, the second I add an XP bar to behavioral management, I have a perfectly fine group of people. It's hilarious. It's amazing. I followed the extra credits method, actually. So, grants to that show if they ever pay attention to us, which they won't.
I mean, I do run into people involved in that show quite regularly.
Really?
I don't talk to them.
Oh.
But
if you find James Sport now, can you take a photo with him and send it to me?
I mean, that's the one I run into all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
James is great.
We run in the same circles.
That's amazing. I'd love to meet James Sport now.
I'm an ex-Digipen student.
I also really want to meet Dan Floyd, because I don't think I've seen anything more entertaining than his Dark Souls playthroughs, because he specifically tries not to swear. So it's basically just him yelling "oh crumbs" and various other
"oh crumbs"
cover-up versions of swears, but also still being Dan Floyd's humor in that Extra Play series is everything I ever want my sense of humor to be. Not without I'm fine with whatever swears, but it's the man's so consistently clever and witty just on a whim that it's amazing to me to be like, anytime he runs into something, he always has some kind of comment where I'm like, That's clever. I wish I could be that funny. Actually, perfect tie-in. The other thing I'm playing a ton of is Dark Souls. I'm trying to beat my way through the Dark Souls 3 DLC, and Ringed City is really, really hard. Man, it's not fun levels of hard, and I consistently have characters that the bosses have resistances towards, and I can't beat it, so I build a new character, and then run into a new obstacle, and then and then 4 characters later, I'm like, why did I do this to myself?
Once again, I stand by my earlier comment, which is Dark Souls is kind of like Mega Man. You build buffs for certain things, and then suddenly you run into something that you don't have a power that is strong enough to defeat.
And then you either learn to duck and weave and Mega Buster the shit out of them, or you find another way around it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You go until you find the Metal Man power.
Have you played those games, John?
Mega Man? Yeah.
No, Dark Souls.
Yes.
Dark Souls.
No, I've never actually played them. I love watching people play video games.
Okay.
So I have watched people play through most of the Dark Souls games. And Bloodborne.
If I were to send you the extra play of Dark Souls 1, would you watch through it, or should I just give you my copy of Dark Souls?
I don't have a system that will play Dark Souls. Hi, my name is John. I really like Nintendo.
Speaking of which, John, what are you playing?
Actually, that plays right into it. Yeah. I've been playing a lot of... Okay, so the 2 games that I'm playing a lot of are Mega Man.
Yes, Mega Man. I assume that's going on in the background of your head at all times.
All times.
You're just always running through Mega Man 2.
All times. It's Dr. Wily. Dr. Wily is behind everything. It's Dr. Wily, okay?
I was more thinking every now and again, at least once a day, your brain just boots up Mega Man 2 and just goes through all the sound effects, and you just play through the game just out of habit.
I will never admit to that.
Yeah, but it's what's happening. Let's be serious here.
I will never admit to that.
All right, so what you been playing?
I've been playing Super Mario Run again, actually. It's a fun game.
Okay.
A lot of people gave that game shit when it came out. But I actually really enjoy playing it. And there is an update coming out soon that will add a whole extra world.
Okay.
And on top of that is going to add remix play, which will make it so that you can play levels that are remixed chunks done randomly every time you play the level.
Oh, okay, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, right?
I will say this, I feel like that game got a lot of crap from mobile players when they figured out it actually would cost them money.
Yeah, that was the thing. A lot of people got really mad, and it's like,
in fairness, I think Nintendo's model is always more backwards than it really should be. I think they should have released the game for free and then done, like, unlockable chunks.
I will defend them on this one because it wasn't that expensive.
Yeah.
And what it was they released the game to download for free so you can play the first world for free.
I know.
And then if you pay the cost of the game, which was like what, $6 or $8?
Okay, so here's the thing.
It was like $6 or $8, and that gave you the entire game. There's no ads. There are no crazy sort of extra purchases. It was just the game.
I agree. And I think that is, in fact, the better model because I know what it means and I understand what they're going for. I don't think the mobile buying audience understood that. No. Because they're used to getting nickel and dimed for everything. And because Nintendo didn't do that, I think they fell into a problem with the mobile gaming audience.
Potentially.
I think it's the better idea to do what they did. I don't think it was the better idea for the platform. You got to work within that framework if you want to be successful. I'm not saying it's a good idea or that it's not scummy. I'm saying that would have been the way to do it. All right. Is that it, basically?
No, the other game I'm playing is Wonder Boy.
What is... I've never heard of that. What is Wonder Boy?
So, it's not the first one. It's the third one that was made. It was originally released on the Sega Master System, but then there was a whole re-release that was done for the Nintendo Switch. That is beautifully like modern art illustrated with new sounds and everything. It is such a fun game.
Well, I was literally about to say, honest question, John. Have you ever played a game beyond the year of 1998?
Yeah, I played. No.
That's an internal joke because no one's gonna hear that editing. Hopefully,
maybe they will.
Whatever. It was funny.
Anyway. You want to start this?
Yeah, let's start the show.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm John.
I'm Andrew.
And this is Agree to Disagree.
Hi, John.
Hello.
How much do you hate me after last episode?
I don't. Wait. Did you watch the movies?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I was just like, how much do you hate me after that suggestion?
Oh, no, I hate that suggestion. Fuck you for that suggestion. Like, seriously, fuck you. But also, I'm not hating you. This is the premise of our show.
I mean, it is the entire idea behind it.
This is that sweet, like, nougaty center.
Also, the show tends to shine when we're in disagreement, so what I'm doing is I'm making a better show, John.
Also, I'm holding pretty firm that I will not change my opinion at the end of this series.
But in fairness, that was literally the entire point of this series when you're like, you'll change your opinion about Scott Pilgrim, and I'm like, I bet I won't, and then I did.
For those of you who are listening, we are recording in the back room of Hi-Fi once again.
Yeah, so if John is trying to edit this and occasionally there are loud brrr sounds just to kind of wake up the audience, that is John editing in the loud noises that occasionally happen in the back room of any brewery.
I will only do that if I'm feeling narcissistic.
Masochistic?
Yes.
There we go.
Narcissistic
is self-loving. Masochistic is you enjoy feeling pain.
Oh, so it's narcissistic.
And sadistic is when you want everyone else to feel pain.
Oh, so I'm feeling sadistic.
Yes. Sadistic.
But also a little narcissistic because I'm a monster. But
no, fair.
I will only include the first one, which I think already happened.
So. It did. It cut off your Wonder Boy segment at the beginning of this, which was pretty perfectly timed. I think you said Wonder Boy, and then the sound just immediately clicked on.
So, for those of you who don't know what The Matrix is...
why are you watching the show? Because the only people who listen to the show hang out with me and John. And how did the people who hang out with me and John, how have you not seen The Matrix yet?
No, I'm a forward-looking individual. Maybe it could be someone 10 years from now.
Fair enough.
That's like... I've never watched that nostalgic movie from the 1990s.
1999. It's not even that. It's not even like the 90s. It was so on the cusp of the 90s, it might as well have been the early 2000s.
So my basic non-spoilery summary that I wrote today.
Okay, this should be good.
Mankind has been fighting a war against machines for potentially centuries.
Yes.
No one is sure because the robots have been winning and most man-made records have been lost.
Mm-hmm.
Humans have been forced from the surface and wage a mostly guerrilla war inside of a piece of software known as the Matrix. This software was constructed as a sort of mental prison for humans. It tricks people into thinking that they live in a late 90s Earth. Well, in reality, they're actually being used as biological batteries to power the machines.
That's a good summary, actually.
Thank you.
You do realize we're going to have to add in spoilers inevitably, right?
Oh yeah, okay. Definitely. But this is sort of like a forewarning.
Okay, but all right, let's quickly do this. Do you enjoy the first Matrix?
Yes,
I thoroughly enjoy the first Matrix. Audience, go watch the first Matrix. We're going into spoiler territory now.
Even if you don't listen beyond this point, watch the first Matrix. It is a good movie. It is a great movie.
The first Matrix is a movie that genuinely stands up beyond the test of it stands up to the test of time. Like, it's still a good movie. The effects aren't exceptional, but they're still pretty good, and the plot's amazing.
They pioneered some amazing techniques that now are being used in photogrammetry, which is a technology that people use to use photographs to scan people into 3D.
And it's one of the most classic hard sci-fi stories outside of, like, Blade Runner to be put into film.
Fair.
Yeah. It's an action movie first and foremost, but that's because the Wachowskis came up with amazing camera work that would make the choreography work.
At the time that this was made,
amazing.
At the time that this was made, it was the closest that a movie had ever come to being kind of like an action anime.
Kind of, yeah. And that was intentional. I mean, the Wachowskis were influenced by Ghost in the Shell and a bunch of other anime from that time period. So all of that kind of boiled down to them saying, what if we made the things that we love into a film?
So the first Matrix movie was released in March of 1999, at the very end, March 31st, 1999.
Called it. Knew it was the last year.
It got a 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a budget of $63 million.
Okay.
And worldwide grossed $463.5 million.
Whoa.
Basically, it grossed $400 million more than it cost to make it.
That is a metric ton of money.
Yes.
That is insane. That is so much cash.
But we're not here to talk about the
statistics of it all.
We're not here to talk about how great the first one was.
We're not, because if you paid attention to our last episode, which I'm hoping you did, lovely audience, I told John that I actually enjoy the sequels to The Matrix. In fact, the whole Matrix trilogy, which is a bold claim.
That is a bold claim, considering that I feel like those movies are made weaker without the inclusion of the Animatrix and all of the other ancillary crap that came out with them.
For reference, audience, the last two of the Matrix trilogy are considered by most of common parlance to be the most unfortunate missteps of a brilliant idea to be put on film.
Yes.
It took all the to most people, it took all the concepts that were brilliant and entertaining about the original Matrix film and mostly wastes their cinematic capital on accomplishing absolutely nothing.
Now, here is the problem that you immediately run into with making sequels for The Matrix. They did not design a world that was meant to be drawn out into a trilogy. It was not designed to be a trilogy. It was designed to be a standalone movie. And there are only a handful of times where you can take that world and draw it out and not make it feel completely batshit insane.
Can I just say, I will say this, side note, audience, because we're recording this, and I just recently, while I was watching a YouTube video earlier today, saw a trailer for the new Blade Runner. That is literally my thought when I saw the Blade Runner 2049 trailer, just like, really? You're gonna try and extend this, like, neo-noir that was based in cyberpunk that, like, really? You're gonna try and extend this? Wow, you guys really are not very bright.
I have a theory that Hollywood wants to use Harrison Ford as much as they possibly can.
Before he dies.
No, fair. And the only way Hollywood knows how to do things anymore
is sequels.
Yep.
He's
look
dead.
out.
He's
As a
dead
side
in
note,
Star
look
Wars.
Out, look out for...
Spoiler alert? Is that spoiler? It's... Fuck, if you haven't seen The Force Awakens in 2 years, like, what are you doing with your life? That's not a spoiler.
As a side note, look out for a reboot of The Fugitive, where Harrison Ford plays as the cop. And also, look out for Air Force 2.
Okay, you see, you say both of those, and the only one I don't believe is Air Force 2. And that's what makes me really sad about my life. And just the world, damn it. Oh.
Get off my plane again.
I can see him saying that just for all the money. I can literally see a bag of cash with the cartoon dollar sign being held off camera as he's saying that line, then hard cut and someone just throws the bag at him and he just leaves. That, like, makes sense in my brain. Why?
All right, I'm done.
I'm leaving.
Bye.
I still think the Red Letter Media line of the Star Wars Holiday Special is when Harrison Ford realized he was too good for this shit. Still might be my favorite thing in regards to Harrison Ford and his acting. Is you can see at this exact moment that Harrison Ford realized he was too good for this shit.
The only movie I can guarantee that Harrison Ford loved doing were plural, the original Indiana Jones trilogy.
Yeah.
He loves playing Indiana Jones.
That was also done as a giant middle finger to the studio system, and I feel like nothing makes Harrison Ford more happy than also making people pissed off.
So basically, Harrison Ford...
Specifically giant capitalist corporations that control his contract. And he's like, you know what? Screw the people who are trying to control me. Also, I get to bullwhip motherfuckers? Oh, I am in.
Harrison Ford is the proto-punk.
I can see that. Ooh. Speaking of which, shouldn't go on the actual podcast, but I don't care. No more heroes. Travis strikes again.
No more
heroes.
Yeah.
It's also a Star Wars joke because tying this back at Empire Strikes Back.
For those who don't know, in this last E3, No More Heroes was announced, the third one. It looks like the entire game is going to take place in a virtual world within the game, which is just like... Okay.
The most punk video game producer of all time is making a Neo virtual reality game based around being a non-virtual reality game. It's so many levels of inception of punk that I don't care.
It's like Travis Touchdown hunted down some guy who's in a mobile home.
Oh, no. The guy down Travis who was in the mobile home.
All right.
For reference, that was Bad Girl's dad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he had the beer and the bat and everything.
You're right.
Sorry, let's get back to the actual topic at hand.
All right. Okay.
You just really don't want to discuss these movies.
So,
in fairness,
I just have a very short version of numbers today.
Okay. No, hit me.
So, Matrix Reloaded, 73% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Revolutions, 36%. A womp womp.
Not even shocked. Not even shocked.
So it had Reloaded and Revolutions were filmed at the same time.
That sounds about right.
It's hard to actually discern what amount of the budget went to one or the other.
Okay.
But it's roughly like $150 million for each.
Okay.
I've been told.
That sounds believable.
And there's also some backstory about that I'll get to in a bit.
Okay.
But Reloaded, which was the second movie, grossed $742 million. It's like number 80 in the top 100 grossing films of all time.
Holy shit. You can just see how much faith people had in a sequel for that movie.
And
Revs?
That is $427 million, which is
$300 million lower.
It's less than the first Matrix made.
Yeah, that sounds about right. People lost faith after Reloaded, man.
And a big part of that is because a lot of people believe that, well, the movie got bombed with the critics. A lot of people felt that the movie did not live up to the lore that they were building.
I can follow that thread.
And it was like, it was a haphazard bow at best.
The thing is, like, and here's the thing, because this is the premise of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Just because John and I agree doesn't mean these are my favorite movies of all time.
No.
I will defend these movies. I will also not disagree with probably some of the sentiments of the Rotten Tomato scores that we are hearing right now.
He will try to defend these movies.
I can understand where they're coming from with some of that. All right, keep it going.
So, okay, let's talk about The Matrix Reloaded for a bit.
Side note, I got a critic that disagrees with you. Roger Ebert, 3.5 out of 4 for Reloaded.
Did you read the review?
Let me read it.
Yeah, no, he didn't. I did read the review before
I read the
episode.
Blurb. I read the blurb. Shut up.
Roger Ebert is super critical of these movies. They're good write-ups, by the way.
Roger Ebert is also consistently critical of everything he watches because Roger Ebert is like the best film critic of all time.
He brings the critic to critic.
Yeah, it's like anything you know about any film critic is because of Ebert.
His review starts with the whole premise that anything that happens in this movie, he doesn't really care because he's never quite sure if it's happening to them in the real world or if it's still the fake world or like things that happen action-wise are the avatars.
Okay, but I will say this is actually phenomenal. I'm just going to read this paragraph.
Yes, please
verbatim.
go for it.
Commander Locke. Not everyone believes what you believe.
We're talking about the first sequel, right?
Yeah.
Yes, please read that. That is a fantastic
Morpheus,
one.
My beliefs do not require that they do. Characters are always talking like this in Matrix Reloaded, which plays like a collaboration involving a geek, a comic book, and the smartest kid in Philosophy 101. Morpheus, in particular, unreels extended speeches that remind me of Laurence Olivier's remarks when he won his honorary Oscar. The speech that had John Voight going, God, on TV, but in print turned out to be quasi-Shakespearean doublespeak. The speeches provide not meaning, but the effective meaning. It sure sounds like those guys are saying some profound things.
Now, I want you to read the next paragraph as well, because that's pretty good.
That will not prevent fanboys from analyzing the philosophy of The Matrix Reloaded in endless web posting. Part of the fun is becoming an expert in the deep meaning of shallow pop mythology. There is something refreshingly ironic about becoming an authority on the transient extrusions of mass culture. And now Morpheus, Lawrence Fishburne, now joins Obi-Wan Kenobi as the Plato of our age. I say this not in disapproval, but in amusement. The Matrix, written and directed by the Wachowski siblings.
Stop. The Obi-Wan
whatever.
Yeah.
Point made.
The Plato remark is something that just really tickled me because it's like, you're saying something that sounds deep,
but you're not saying anything.
But doesn't really have a lot of depth to it.
In fairness, the deepest character in Star Wars, I think we made this comment when we were getting Ben to watch Star Wars back in the day. The deepest character in the entirety of the Star Wars trilogy has got to be Yoda during Empire and nothing else.
Oh, yeah. Well,
he actually provides good quotes and an interesting philosophy on life.
Yeah.
Very Zen Buddhist, which is still, cribbing different philosophy, but whatever, he tried.
If anyone's going to argue that Yoda was being deep in Jedi, they really need to watch that again.
Or, Yoda being deep in Attack of the Clones, where he's
sorry. What?
Bleeding
Attack
green.
of the what now?
Yeah, no, exactly. We don't talk about those films on this show, everybody.
Were there... Was he in Star Wars movies other than that? Was he in...
No.
Okay.
Not that I remember.
All right.
He died after episode 3? 3, right? Not 6? 3? Episode 3? Episode 4 came out a couple of years ago, right?
It was I see how you're confused. It was the third movie.
Right. But it's but episode 5 is coming out this year, right? Right? Episode 5, what is it? The Last Jedi? Episode 5, Last Jedi, right?
No. You see, Empire was episode 5.
No, but like we were going to call it episode 5 because we don't talk about the real...
No.
Other 3 episodes.
I don't think anyone's ever tried making movies about episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, yeah.
We just started on 4 because it was a fun way to jump into the middle of things.
Why would you make movies about 1, 2, and 3?
Why would you do that?
You don't need to tell that story.
I don't think anyone should ever try to do that. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, that'd be an awful idea.
Tonkins!
Anyway. Moving swiftly onwards from our utter depression at pop culture.
So the second movie in the Matrix trilogy...
Matrix Reloaded.
Was Matrix Reloaded. It's supposed to take place like 6 months after the first movie. Mm-hmm. Even though it was filmed 4 years after the first movie.
Yes, it was.
And actually, Lawrence Fishburne, who plays Morpheus, got into a lot of trouble because he had gained a lot of weight between...
I didn't know that one. That's really funny.
He had to lose a lot of weight to play Morpheus again. That's nitpicky.
No, but
that's kind of bullshit Hollywood shit.
That's so funny, though. That's so... Because I've never noticed that before, and that's very entertaining. Because now I'm going to watch back and be like, I never noticed that.
He did lose a lot of weight to play Morpheus again.
Oh, that's good. No, not good.
It's good.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Good on you.
I like that he's dedicated to his roles that much where he's like, yes, I need to become Morpheus again.
But, okay, so this was a movie that was, I will say that I don't have as big of a problem with the second movie as much as I do with the third movie.
Okay.
I'm going to keep saying second and third because I always mix them up.
That, in fairness, that's okay. That happens.
And like it's a cool movie. It plays into a lot of things that people wanted to see.
Yes.
And also tries to build on the world that they had created in the first one.
The concepts that they worked with.
Yeah.
So, John, I'm going to be a monster here. Attempt to explain to me the plot of Reloaded.
Neo is kind of swimming in the ability that he is essentially an immortal in the Matrix. And likes to do his Superman thing.
Direct quote.
Him and the rest of his crewmates go to secret meetings where they talk about what the machines are doing. And they find that there is some secret information that needs to be shared with Zion immediately to warn about the upcoming war.
Zion is the last human city on the real world.
So, I say war. The war is never stopping. It is the next battle, which they fear will wipe out Zion. So they try to figure out ways to deal with this. Meanwhile, Agent Smith, the computer program that Neo supposedly wiped out in the first movie.
He destroyed at the end of the original Matrix when he actually realized he could ascend beyond what the Matrix's capabilities were and therefore destroyed an agent for the first time ever.
It turns out that Agent Smith has been assimilating pretty much everybody inside of the Matrix.
Yeah, turns out that person you actually thought you knew, your best friend, yeah, they're actually just that one guy. They're actually just Hugo Weaving, staring at you. It's really terrifying.
And he has created a whole army of Agent Smiths to try and destroy the Matrix from the inside out, and in the meantime also destroy all of mankind. So Neo goes on this
fair plan.
Neo is doing two different things. He's trying to both save Zion and also stop Agent Smith.
Although mostly in the second one, it's more coincidental that Smith happens to be there. It's less the driving force and more a setup for movie 3, where it's, by the way, Smith is here. He's way more powerful than you remember him to be. And turns out he has his own secret plan since being unleashed from the system when he died at the hands of Neo.
So essentially, they have to find the Keymaker, and the whole second half of the movie is just a bunch of fast shots of bullshit.
Yeah.
And
I will say that highway scene's awesome as hell.
Oh yeah, we're not even going to get into the Merovingi or anything like that.
Merovingian, I love him
because we're gonna save that for the next episode. But when it's fresh in my mind, and I might actually have some gushy good things to say, but. Let me just say that essentially...
Did you just admit to the possibility that you might actually end up liking these movies?
For the record, there are things about these movies that I like a lot, but the movies are garbage.
Most people are that... I will say most people who I know who have seen both of these movies are very much that way, where they're like, they're bad films, but they have such awesome potential that got completely bobbled.
The fact that these movies are such high-budget B movies is only accentuated by the fact that Neo has fights with all of the horror movie monsters, but in Matrix form.
It's like watching someone hit a home run in baseball, and the center fielder jumps, and they catch it, and it lands in their glove after they jump physically off of the wall. They vault off the wall, and you're super impressed. And that's the first Matrix. And then Matrix Reloaded is them landing to the ground, you hearing the sound of their foot snapping as they move forward, and the ball's still in their glove, and it hits the ground, and then it counts as a double. So, and then the Matrix Revolutions is that person dying on the field due to injuries.
But yeah, so hey, by the way, you ever hear about stories of werewolves, ghosts, and vampires? Oh, those are just programs.
Turns out, actually, and I love this, because I'm going to pull this one on you because I love this, they're actually they're actually older agents of older forms of the Matrix. Oh, it's amazing. I love it. I don't even care.
Ladies and gentlemen at home, I'm doing a masturbatory motion. It's furiously.
I don't even care. I just love the idea that only recently Because you know what it is, and I'm going to pull this because I love this conceptually, that the Matrix changes what their agents look like depending on what the fear of that era is. In the 90s, it was the Men in Black figures. It's a guy in a suit with some glasses coming from the government. It's the G-Man figure. And then go further back in certain times, and they use different agents. They use ghosts, they use werewolves, they use vampires, because why not? Might as well just prey on humanity's weaknesses.
Yes.
It's amazing. I love it.
If you invent that lore, sure.
That's actually a real thing. That's actually like a thing in the lore.
All right.
Not even kidding.
I want you to prove it in the next episode. Okay. I'm getting a thumbs up.
Can do.
Because a podcast, as you all know,
is not a visual medium.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So movie 3, since we're plowing our way through this. Tell me what Revolutions is about.
Revolutions is the war. Revolutions is...
That's a fair summary.
Zion is broken into by the machines, and it is a race against time to save humanity before the machines wipe it all out. At this point, at the beginning of the movie, Neo is actually in a coma, which he's not really in a coma. He's actually stuck in a holding cell in the Matrix. It's sort of like it is a metro platform where he is waiting for a train. Yes. And it's a very anime. It is so anime. Yeah. It is the most anime thing that this movie has ever done.
You know what's really funny? I just realized the waiting in a train scene thing was later stolen by Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap. Oh, my God. The Wachowskis were before J.K. Rowling. I'm going to flip a table. It's amazing.
Please don't flip the table. Our mics are on here.
I'm not going to flip the table. Our mics are on here. As well as beer. I don't feel like flipping that.
At least my beer.
I'm done. No, yeah, but basically Neo awakens in a coma with the train man, who is the guy who is in charge of getting him back to his location.
And it turns out one of the special features of the one is that he is still jacked into the Matrix even though he's unplugged.
Oh, we haven't explained that part. So Neo is in Reloaded understood to be a program known as the One, which is a unifying being who is essentially the conglomeration of all the miscalculations of the Matrix into a single anomaly.
And once again, if you have not watched the first Matrix,
this is going to make absolutely no sense.
You should really
seriously
stop.
Watch the damn movie. Don't listen to us. Stop listening to our wonderful voices. We love you. Please come back and listen. Watch the fucking first movie. It's on Netflix.
We do love you.
We do love you. Seriously, though, watch the first Matrix. It's on Netflix. You have no excuse. Do that. 2 hours. Good time. Anyway, the One at this point is found out in Reloaded to be a conglomeration of all the miscalculations that naturally happen in a computer program, and instead of dealing with multiple miscalculations and a failing of the Matrix, they combined all of the errors into one single program, which is the One.
Essentially, the One is the rounding off of all of the garbage that happens when you divide something.
He's a leap year.
Yeah. He's the leap year of the Matrix.
Yep. That's actually a very good summary. The Matrix's leap year.
He is February 29th.
Yep. That's actually the best possible comparison I could have come up with.
Oh my God. If I were to ever look at the lore of the Matrix and look up Neo's birthday and it says February 29th.
I'm doing that.
Well, save that for the next episode.
Okay, but I'm doing that. Keep going. Keep explaining Matrix Revolutions to me.
The war is happening. So it's a war on two fronts, in the Matrix and in the real world. And what ends up happening is Neo is the person who wakes up. He is blind, needs to save the Matrix, or save humanity. And he goes directly to the epicenter of the machines, where he gets jacked in because they need to save the Matrix because Agent Smith has corrupted it to a point of no return, like a virus. And so Neo goes in and does a battle with the original, the fucking proto Agent Smith. And it is a Dragon Ball Z battle in the rain on epic proportions.
Which, by the way, if you didn't figure out that the Wachowski siblings are actually massive anime fans, especially 90s anime fans, you would have figured out by this point.
Yeah, for the record, the storyboards for the first movie were written out as like an anime. They could have published that.
Oh, yeah.
It was written out like a manga.
I mean, and then they made the Animatrix later on in the...
Yeah, well, they didn't make... They allowed...
They were involved in the making of the Animatrix. They didn't make it, but no, I see your point.
But yeah, so the whole movie ends with Neo becoming the ultimate Jesus figure, dying and being raised by the machines.
Oh, which, by the way, none of this imagery is remotely subtle.
No, not at all. Like, fucking Jesus on a cross...
He dies in the shape of a light cross.
He dies for the sins of both man and machine, and it's the thing that brings man and machine together as one, hopefully.
And that death,
end.
That death actually sparks some kind of termination protocol within the Smith program, destroys him, freeing the entirety of the Matrix from the Smith virus.
Essentially, Smith killing Neo kind of does a divide by zero kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And it annihilates him from the system and annihilates his influence from the system. Leaving everyone free.
The movies end with the Matrix still exists, but it apparently has more of a harmonious vibe to it.
The architect talking with the Oracle
on a park bench in like Central Park.
And asking, how long do you think this piece will last? As long as it can. Which implies that the Matrix system continues onwards, maybe in a lesser form, but it definitely continues.
Which, for the record, I don't have a real problem with the end of the movies.
Either, actually. I kind of like that.
It's all of the shit in the middle I got a problem with.
Well, also because, and to be very serious, as someone who is seriously just talking about the literary analysis of the entire Dark Souls franchise, I like the idea of not just I like the idea of a cyclical system as a concept within media, but I also just like the idea of the way the Matrix does it, where there's a lot of... It's implied that this isn't the only time, not even close to the only time that this has happened. Neo, I think, is implied to be the 11th.
He's like
he's like the 11th or 12th one,
something like that.
Yeah, and it's implied that he's not nearly even close to the first person who's done this. And I kind of like the idea that your protagonist isn't the end all be all of these sort of things. I don't know. I like that, and it kind of fits the idea that, despite the hero's efforts, it doesn't shatter this order and create some new revolutionary society where everyone's at peace and harmonious. It's you destroyed the prison is kind of eliminated, but we still need to discuss the errors that are still here.
So we did a bit of disservice to the character of the architect.
We did.
The character of the architect
is possibly one of the most baffling things ever put in a movie.
He is the person who designed the Matrix. Or it, I don't know, whatever.
He is implied to essentially, if we were talking computer program language, he is admin.
And so, as we mentioned before, he designed the One as a part of the Matrix. Mm-hmm. Essentially, if you don't know anything about how programming or machines work, think about Firefox. Firefox is notoriously famous for having memory leaks. Mm-hmm. So it runs just fine when you first open it, but then over time, things become sluggish. Your whole system becomes sluggish because there's so many unaccounted for variables over a long period of time.
Neo is essentially the conglomeration of all those unaccountable
variables. The One effectively works as kind of like a collection plate before a hard reset.
Yep. And that's the way the architect designed him. It's actually very explicitly stated in Reloaded.
If I were to do my own version of a Matrix story, it would be about a person who became the One really early on, way before they were supposed to, and they weren't that powerful because there weren't enough things that had been dropped into memory.
Shit, I'd watch that. That sounds amazing.
So it's like the whole story is over the period of time. He becomes stronger as he becomes older, basically because he's able to harness more power as more shit goes wrong in the program.
So John, I'll do the obvious question. Why do you not like these movies?
I don't like these movies because I feel like there are two reasons. One, they built on a framework that was only designed for one movie. And because of that, it ends up becoming shoddy at best. It's like trying to build extra levels on a home that has a foundation for a single level. Well, and then the problem is that they try to extrapolate from the original movie a deeper meaning, and they have to keep trying to be profound and go deeper and deeper with it. But the problem is the lore that they built wasn't designed for that. So it ends up becoming just kind of like a hot mess.
I will admit it becomes very convoluted. I'm not defending that part. I will definitely say that there is some... See, the thing is, I very much enjoy the weird convolution sort of aspect of it all. Like, for example, you mentioned the Merovingian earlier. I like the Merovingian. I like his weird entourage. I like
the idea that even in the world... It's like the whole wartime smuggler kind of idea.
Yeah.
He'll do anything for a price.
And it's also that kind of thing where, because I love the very simple narrative of the first Matrix of machines, humans, maybe not good evil, but very close approxima, and then that's it. But I kind of like the idea of the Matrix Reloaded adding in those gray zones of being like, first of all, this has happened before. Second of all, it'll happen again. Third, we already fucking know that. Why are you here and why do we care? It's the Merovingian and people like the various members of Zion, the lieutenants kicking the door and being like, we know the one exists. Shut up, Morpheus. We understand that this system's gonna happen again. What we need to do is figure out the now. Fuck off. And it's kind of interesting to see that very traditional hero narrative kind of get thrown out the window for this idea of there's so much gray zone that we didn't talk about. I'm not saying that's justification, because that movie gets so confusing.
I'm interested in watching the movies from that perspective.
You know Seraph from the Protector of the Oracle?
Yeah.
You know why he's called Seraph?
Why?
First of all, it's a reference to the Seraphim.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like a sans serif kind of thing.
No, second of all, here's the amazing thing. He's actually one of the original agents. Because originally in the first program, in the first version of the Matrix, the agents were designed to be angels, because the idea was that having angels as agents would make sense. But human beings didn't respond well to that level of dictatorship, and so they had to reset the Matrix. But Seraph managed to stay around and claim his name as Seraph, and then started helping the Oracle. He is the only surviving agent from year 1, version 0 of the Matrix.
See, the real problem with the Matrix is it was built on top of...
Side note, that's why when you see him through Neo's Matrix vision, he's glowing white. He's the only thing that's glowing white in the Matrix code, and that's because he was an original agent. So
the major problem I have with the Matrix was that it was built on the foundation source code of Second Life. So there's a lot of fucked up shit in the Deep Matrix. That's also why when you go to like Merovingian's club, it's basically like being in a club in Second Life.
It's also like being in what was approximated to be actual literal hell.
Or some form of purgatory.
You do realize this club is called hell, right?
I realize your club is called hell.
You didn't know that, did you?
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The other advantage I have going into this is I know way too much about these movies.
Okay, so did you play Enter the Matrix?
Yeah, I did.
Me too.
Did
you beat it?
I did.
Me too.
Yeah. I didn't like it.
I liked the ideas that it had. The game was bad.
I did too. The game was really bad.
But like the idea of essentially there was a DOS prompt that you could like quote unquote hack.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
It was also terrible as a game mechanic.
It was terrible as a game mechanic, but it was such a great idea.
So, side note.
Some of my favorite things.
John and I are going to be discussing a lot of random supplemental garbage when it comes to the Matrix, and that's because, the Matrix wasn't just a trilogy.
Some of the best shit that came out of that first movie was the supplemental stuff.
There is so much supplemental stuff with this film. Animatrix, Enter the Matrix, the Matrix Online game that came out later on.
Cartoons, comics, and video games.
That just explains so much of this stuff. The Matrix wasn't originally intended as a trilogy.
The world was horny. They were horny for it.
The Matrix wasn't originally intended as a trilogy, but the Matrix was intended as a Wachowski's siblings platform. It was going to be the thing they built everything off of. And they tried. It didn't work. But they certainly attempted, which leads to a lot of, and I'll keep referencing this throughout the rest of this podcast and probably next podcast.
And the rest of time.
So many awesome ideas that were in the original, that are in these supplemental documents that just never got used. Like the idea of Seraph being an original agent is so sweet. Like that's why his Matrix code, when Neo sees him, looks divine and looks perfect compared to everything else, is because he was literally built as a perfect program, so that way humanity would obey a perfect protector figure. And also why it didn't work and why he serves the Oracle. The reason he serves the Oracle is because he recognized, well, I can't do this, but I also believe in these things that we are using as batteries. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And she seems to side mostly with them. Maybe I should help these things. He was one of the first agents to actually achieve a level of empathy with the things that they're essentially using as their batteries. It was incredible. And that's why Seraph's a cool character, but you don't see it in Reloaded. And there are just such awesome things that consistently just fall by the wayside. The Merovingian's included in this and Reloaded. Smith himself is included in Revolutions.
Well, even the idea of the Oracle, which they touch on in the first movies but don't elaborate on, but is clearly the whole intent, is that the Oracle is a part of the Matrix.
She's a prediction module.
She is a program. and she just happens to be one who's built in that's meant to find the one and
start the hard reset.
Yeah.
But in her time finding the hard reset, she's begun to realize that maybe every time we reset this has become less and less necessary, and maybe we should stop.
Well, I mean, it's the same with all war, isn't it?
But that's actually part of the point of the Oracle, is this non-violent sort of Mandela Gandhi figure within the Matrix.
She is so non-war and also very Mandela.
Yeah, she is, but that's
right down to the freckles.
Yeah, but, fair.
You show up at her apartment in the first movie, and Neo walks up, and she has just finished baking cookies.
And that's part of the point.
Like, she is such a grandma.
And she's this sweet, adorable lady
she's like fun young grandma.
But like her entire point is to be this system that has learned its way out of this cycle of violence and realizing maybe constantly destroying some of our own people isn't a good idea to keep us all functional. Maybe this should end, and that's actually part of the point of the end of Revolutions, is how long is this peace going to last? As long as I can make it last.
Now, a lot of people talk about the inefficiency of using humans as batteries.
Oh God, we're not even getting into that.
But I just want to say, like, my theory on this is that the robots didn't want to completely destroy humanity because they understand that would be wrong.
That's actually a good point.
They found a way to work it into their system
and harvest us without annihilating us.
Yes, yep. Essentially, they don't want to be responsible for being the ones who killed us, and that's why the whole cycle continues.
Fair. And actually, I like that idea a lot more. But let me put it this way. We're not, and we've never been one to do this, but I also want to state this because The Matrix kind of lends itself to this being sci-fi. We're not going to lend ourselves to the dumb, cracked after-hours-y sort of like, but what if you just, like, cloned the ones that were functional and just kept everyone the like, we're going to go navel-gazing, but the good philosophical, literary scholar navel-gazing, not the, but, like, what-if science navel-gazing. Because we're never going to get anywhere from that standpoint. We're going to talk about this from a literary, film, cinematic standpoint and analyze whether these movies are worthwhile. Not if their science is good.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have anything else to add?
No, this was phenomenal. I hope you enjoyed the movies.
I hope I do as well.
That is more belief than I had in me enjoying Scott Pilgrim, so good luck, sir.
We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.